What's going on, everybody? It's Dylan of TheBottomLineView back for another video, and today I'm here to talk about the wild card. The playoffs are right around the corner. They're going to be official as of Sunday night, so I'm very excited to see how this unfolds. But we're going to be talking about the wild card teams today. They're not exactly 100% official, so I know people in the comments will be like, well, this team isn't going to make it. I'm focusing on the 6 teams that are most poised to get the wild card spot. So 2 of these teams won't even have this discussion as of Sunday night, but I have to talk about them and include them because they still could make the playoffs. I want to talk about how all of these 6 teams, do they have a realistic chance to make it to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl? Look at their best wins, their worst losses, who they've lost to in the regular seasons in terms of playoff teams, and see, are they really fit to make a big-time Super Bowl run. So I'm going to be looking at that today and crown the winner and see, there could be a realistic chance that one of these teams makes it to the Super Bowl and makes a big run. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we have the 5th seed Los Angeles Chargers to start out. You're going to see their best wins, the worst losses for each team, and then, of course, at the bottom, who they've lost to here in terms of playoff caliber teams. The best wins for the Chargers included their Titans win Week 7, 20-19. The Seahawks 25-17 win in Week 9, their Steelers 33-30 win in Week 13, and the great Chiefs 29-28 victory in Week 15. Their worst loss came against the Ravens 22-10 in Week 16. Now, worst loss can be defined as a team that you shouldn't lose to, or a team that's in the playoffs that you didn't have a really great performance as, and that's probably their worst loss to date. They have lost to the Rams, Chiefs, and Ravens in terms of playoff caliber teams. Now, the Chargers still could be up for their own division. So, you could put the Chiefs in here, but pretty sure the Chiefs are going to get the Raiders victory on Sunday. So, I'm putting the Chargers here at the number 5 spot. Looking at all their wins that they have this year, they've been very impressive. They've been able to go down the field, have some really great drives, and these wins are very close. All of these games are within one possession of wins, but it's all about being clutch. And if there's one thing that Philip Rivers has wanted to have is be clutch. And this year he's absolutely been clutch on the field. His running back situation the entire year has been pretty interesting because Melvin Gordon has been great, but he's been injured over the last 6 weeks or so. Austin Eckler has been there. Justin Jackson has been great when he's been filling in. His receivers are there, but Keenan Allen has had a lot of his injuries, so it's all about what Philip Rivers can do to make this offense work. And with guys like Mike and Terrell Williams, Travis Benjamin, those guys, he's been able to make it do and put up some really great performances that get the job done. Their defense has gotten a lot more healthy over the course of the year. Joey Bosa came in late in the season, and he's made a good impact. This team that I had high expectations for coming into the year, you guys know I made that video saying, are they the dark horse of the playoffs? They could definitely be a dark horse candidate here because although they won't be playing a home game if they have this 5th seed, for the most part, unless if somehow something else happens. The Chargers are a team that I don't think a lot of teams in the AFC want to play. It's a matchup that I think is very unfavorable for most in the AFC, and honestly, with the way they've been playing right as of late is pretty hot. I know last week they had a bad loss to the Ravens. I think the Ravens are another cheat code who are technically not in the wildcard discussion. They're going to probably win the AFC North, so they're not in part of this video. But they still have been able to get really good wins against all those playoff teams and playoff caliber teams. Steelers are maybe not going to make the playoffs here, but you have a Chiefs victory a couple of weeks ago with how they were able to, they were down 2 possessions with 5 minutes to go. It was impressive. So that's how the Chargers are looking as of right now. So next up is the current 6th seed in the AFC, the Indianapolis Colts. The best wins they've had this season was against their division rival Titans, 38-10 in Week 11, versus their division rival Texans, 24-21 in Week 14, and the Dallas Cowboys, 23-0 in Week 15. Their worst loss came against their own division opponent, the Jaguars, when they lost 6-0 in Week 10. They've lost to the Eagles. There's a question mark there because the Eagles might not make the playoffs, but they're close. They're in this discussion. The Texans and the Patriots in terms of playoff teams. Here's the thing. The biggest reason as to why I'm excited about the Colts is because their biggest losses came early on in the season. All of those losses, I believe, happened in weeks 3, 4, and 5. They were all consecutive. Ever since then, Andrew Luck has been able to put on a masterpiece. He's putting on a show. He's comeback player of the year. I'm sorry, J.J. Watt. He has just been tremendous in, slinging the rock, being able to show everybody, hey, that injury is way past me. Like, I am going to show that I am still a great quarterback in this league, and he's absolutely done so with guys that, besides T.Y. Hilton, aren't all that great. Like, they're not amazing receivers. T.Y. Hilton is great. He's made Eric Ebron, for God's sakes, look good, which before the season wasn't even possible, and he's having a really good season, an underrated tight end season. So Andrew Luck has been able to do that. The defense is really solid, something I wasn't expected to say coming into this year. Darius Leonard has been a freaking beast, man. And the biggest thing about the Colts is that when you are playing great late into the season, that means you have a little bit higher expectations going into playoff time. So the Colts, they might not make it if they lose to the Titans. That's going to be their downfall. But Andrew Luck is, I believe, 10-0 against the Titans in his career. So he's looking to get that 11th victory. And when you come in hot, coming into the playoffs, it means better things to come. So I think the Colts have a decent chance to get a couple of upset victories in the playoffs. It depends on who they play coming that time. But honestly, I mean, if the Colts sneak in, get that 6th seed, look out. There could be a couple of upset victories down the line for the Colts and how they play based on what the Andrew Luck can bring and how this defense has been very, very positive over the last couple of weeks. So look out for the Colts here. All right, and the final could-be wildcard team they're going to be talking about here in the current 7th seed in the AFC is the Tennessee Titans. Their best wins came against the Texans 20-17 in Week 2 versus the Eagles 26-23 in overtime in Week 4 versus the Dallas Cowboys 28-14 in Week 9 and versus the Patriots 34-10 in Week 10. Their worst losses, they have multiple compared to some of these other teams, versus the Dolphins 27-20 Week 1, versus the Bills 13-12 Week 5, and versus the Ravens 21-0 Week 6. They've lost to the Ravens, Chargers, Colts question mark, because if they win on Sunday, then Colts won't be a playoff team, and Texans in terms of playoff contenders. Here's the thing. The Tennessee Titans are a team I absolutely do not want to see in the playoffs. Absolutely not. Why? Because they are boring. I'm sorry. Call me a Titans hater all you want. I'm not really trying to hate. I'm trying to analyze what I see. And they're just a very boring and bland team. Unless you're Derrick Henry, who has been an amazing stretch as of late, I just do not get excited to watch Titans games. I don't know who does unless you're a Titans fan. You look at the schedule, you're like, oh man, Titans game? Boom, got to turn that on. I've never had that feeling whatsoever. Even when the Cowboys, when they were playing them early in the show, I was like, just watching because it's Monday Night Football. The thing about the Titans, if we're really going to get into the statistics and all that, they've had some pretty good victories. I mean, let's look at this. They got their division victory against the Texans Week 2. They got that Cowboys victory in the middle of the stretch where the Cowboys were, I know they were in a bad position, but the Titans really needed to look better at that time frame. And they beat the Patriots, which was a huge shocker, So their best win came farther ahead in the season than their worst loss. The thing is that their losses are really bad. They got shut out against the Ravens, which shows me that if they play the Ravens again, they're absolutely not going to win. The Bills, they only kicked field goals the entire game, and they started off the season pretty poor against the Dolphins. But a lot of those games came into the early to mid part of the season, and of course that Patriots victory was the best thing that's happened in the season, and that's the latest thing that you see on this list. But overall, I just don't see a long Titans stretch for them. I absolutely do not. They've got to come up in big situations, and I just do not see that happening with these group of guys. I give it up for them. If they make the playoffs and beat the Colts here, they deserve to be in the playoffs. But in terms of making a Super Bowl run, absolutely not. Teams know how to stop them, and it's not going to be a pretty look come playoff time for them. All right, now we're on the NFC side of the wild card teams, and we're going to talk about the 5th seed right now. They're already guaranteed a wild card spot, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be the number 5 seed, the Seattle Seahawks. Their best wins came against the Cowboys 24-13 in Week 3, versus the Vikings 21-7 in Week 14, and versus the Kansas City Chiefs last Sunday night in a 38-31 victory. Their worst losses came against the Broncos 27-24 in Week 1, and the 49ers overtime loss 26-23 in Week 15. They've lost to the Bears, the Rams, and the Chargers in terms of playoff teams. Here's the thing about the Seahawks. Coming into the year, I was not very optimistic about this team. I made a video talking about would Pete Carroll even stay the year. Well, I look like an idiot now. But early on in the season, they were struggling pretty hard. They were not able to come up with successful games. They had some really bad offensive mojo going. It was not really working in Seattle for the first couple of weeks. And you saw it with games like the Broncos where they lost in a situation where they could have won. They got decimated by the Bears in Week 2. It did not start off very well. But again, as many people, philosophers, if you will, have said, it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And the Seattle Seahawks come in very hot because of how they finished in 2018. They've had really successful victories over the last couple of weeks. They beat the Vikings, who are also in contention for a wildcard spot that we'll talk about in a minute. And they beat the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football in prime time. They've had great players over this period. Of course, Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson, they've had a perfect passer rating between the two. Tremendous stuff there. Doug Baldwin has been able to make insane catches. And overall, the offense is clicking, especially with the running back department, something that we've been talking about for the last year or so with Seattle. Can they fix that? Because I believe they didn't have a 100-yard rusher in a game last year. And now they had 3 people to really help the load there for the running back situation. So that was great. And their defense by Bobby Wagner, led by Bobby Wagner, obviously is getting the job done, and it's a defense I do not want to see come playoff time. To be honest with you, I don't think a lot of teams want to see this defense come playoff time. They've been getting stronger over the last couple of weeks, and they showcased their talents against the Chiefs last week and really put a stamp on things that, hey, this Seahawks team could make this legitimate run. We're going to rank these teams from 1 to 6 at the end, but look out for Seattle. They have put it on for the last couple of weeks, and it's going to be a scary thought coming into the playoffs. So that's how I feel about the Seahawks. All right, so we have the 6th seed Minnesota Vikings to talk about next. Their best win of the season came against the Eagles in Week 5, 23-21. They've had quite a bit of worse losses this year as well. They lost 27-6 to the Bills Week 3 when they were the unprecedented favorites. They lost to the Bears 25-20 in Week 11. Again, the Bears and the Seahawks, which they also lost 21-7 in Week 14. They're both playoff teams, or contenders. Yeah, they're both playoff teams. But they just had really, really terrible showings against both of them. And they've lost to the Rams, Saints, Bears, Patriots, and Seahawks playoff teams. This is the least likely team to win the Super Bowl out of the wildcard teams. I'm serious, even more than the Titans. You want to know why? Because they have not beaten a single playoff team this year. And yes, I get it, the Eagles are there, but if the Vikings make the playoffs, then the Eagles won't. So they didn't beat a playoff team. They've had 5 opportunities, not including the Eagles, to beat them. The Rams was close, but their defense could not stop a thing whatsoever. The Saints was a close game at the start, but they just really lost it at the end with some bad turnover by Kirk Cousins. The Bears showing was terrible. If they do beat the Bears Week 17, then I guess they get 1. But they had a really bad showing the first time around. The Patriots, they started off okay, but the offense was really getting shut down towards the end. And then they had a terrible performance against the Seahawks on Monday Night Football. Look, I know they fired John DeFilippo. They got a new offensive coordinator. They won their last 2 games. Good. But in terms of playoff caliber teams that are really, really good, you would want to come up a little bit more clutch in these situations. Even the Titans have wins against the Cowboys and the Patriots, like solid victories against them. And they're not a team that I really like in this scenario. But the Vikings have produced literally nothing of note this year. And I get it, there's been changes in the last couple of weeks, but that Seahawks game was Week 14. Like, if there's any indication of how you might be playing come playoff time, Week 14 is maybe an indication of that. And they might not even make the playoffs still. If they lose to the Bears and the Eagles win their game against the Redskins, they're out. But in terms of these 6 teams, I just haven't seen enough from the Vikings on a consistent basis to put them any higher. They've had really bad losses over the course of the season. That Bills one where they were favored a lot, and then those 2 really bad performances against the Bears and the Seahawks. It's just not clicking for me, man. I like the Vikings. You know me about that, but yeah, the Vikings don't really have a shot for this, in my opinion. All right, now we have the final wild card contender here that we're going to talk about, the Philadelphia Eagles. Their best wins have come in the last 2 weeks against the Rams, 30-23 in Week 15, and against the Texans, 32-30 in Week 16. The worst losses one was very early in the year against the Buccaneers, 27-21 in week 2, and one near the middle of the year, the Saints, 48-7 loss. That was terrible. They lost to the Titans, the Vikings, the Cowboys, and the Saints in terms of playoff teams. The Titans are still a question mark because they might not make the playoffs, and the Vikings will be eliminated from this list if the Eagles make the playoffs. So, there you go. Here's the thing about the Eagles. A couple of weeks ago, I had no idea this team was still contending for a playoff spot. I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. But Nick Foles has led this team to something that I did not expect. He has led this team to believe that they can make the playoffs, and they only need to win and the Vikings to lose in order to make that happen. And here's the thing, I might not want to play the Eagles, because for some odd reason, some strange reason, I feel that the Eagles like playing with Nick Foles more than Carson Wentz. I don't know. I mean, last year he ran this incredible playoff run, this incredible playoff stretch where he did so well, and he was able to make the right plays necessary to get the team to win the Super Bowl. And he's just a great team player, it looks like. And the team really likes what he does, and he just brings this kind of fire, it seems, in the Eagles team to get it done. And this includes all the injuries that the Eagles have had. So many secondary issues with all the injuries that they've had there. Even the offensive players have gotten quite a bit of injuries over the last, 16 weeks. So it's pretty crazy to see that the Eagles are in this opportunity, but Nick Foles leads them in this situation. And honestly, you got to give the man a lot of credit. Come playoff time, I don't know how much of that's going to happen if he gets to the playoffs, but just the simple fact that Nick Foles has led this team in this situation, considering how bad they were playing in the middle of the year, is pretty impressive. Like, that Saints loss was horrific. It was one of the worst slaughterings I've ever seen. But he was able to come in, and that was Carson Wentz, by the way. But he was able to come in against the Rams and play very, very good football. Those two deep shots, huge deep shots to Nelson Aguilar were huge. I don't know if both of them were, but one of them definitely was. And it was crazy just to see that. One was Alshon Jeffrey, that's right. So seeing that was great big throws in big situations. And then against the Texans, when your season's on the line as well, able to get it done, get the drive down the field, and get the kicker to make the game-winning field goal, Jake Elliott. Good stuff there. Eagles, they have a shot. They're going to be listed. You'll see the list in just a second. But Eagles, with what happened last year and what Nick Foles has brought to the table, could happen. All right, so here are my rankings of wildcard contenders to win the Super Bowl. At number 6, the Minnesota Vikings. I think they have absolutely no chance to win the Super Bowl. Their offense is extremely inconsistent, and overall, they haven't beaten any playoff teams in the regular season this year. So that's why they're at number 6. At number 5, the Tennessee Titans. I also don't think they have a really good chance to win the Super Bowl. There's a lot of good teams in the AFC, and they're just not good enough on offense to get it done because they've had some pretty bad games this year where all they do is kick field goals. So not a chance for me. At number 4, the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, surprisingly enough, the Eagles have a better chance because Nick Foles just knows how to come on these incredible runs and get this team in a better position. Will they go far? I don't know, but they have a decent chance with Nick Foles for some weird reason. At number 3, the Indianapolis Colts. I think the Colts can pull off a couple of upsets in the AFC, honestly. I mean, Andrew Luck has been throwing the ball, slinging it like crazy, and their defense is getting hot at the most appropriate time. I think this Colts team has a chance to get a couple of sneaky victories. Will they get to the Super Bowl? That'd be a stretch, but I think any team in the AFC has a chance, so you never know with the Colts here. At number 2, the Seattle Seahawks. Again, another team that's getting hot at the right time. They've been hot for the last half of the season, but still, they're able to get really good defense. Their offense is clicking. I think I don't want to see this team come playoff time because they could sneak out a couple of really good, solid victories. I mean, they may get stumped in the divisional round, but they have a good chance. And the number 1 wildcard contender, the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, they almost aren't even a wildcard team, but they are very, very good on offense. Phil Rivers is getting it done, and that defense is really solid. And they've beaten some really good playoff teams. Like they've been able to get that solid consistency against the Chiefs and the Steelers and the Seahawks also. So good stuff from the Chargers. They're my number 1 wildcard team that has a chance to win the Super Bowl. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, smash the like button. Comment below. Which wildcard team do you think has the best chance to win Super Bowl 53? I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Subscribe to The Bottom Line View. We got more content on the way. My playoff predictions video is coming Monday morning. I am going to work day and night. I'm going to work so long on that video once Week 17 is over. Once that Titans-Colts game is over, I'm working as soon as it's done. So you guys will hear from me on Sunday night for that live stream, and then Monday for that predictions video. So thank you guys for watching. Dylan with the Bottom Line View. Peace out.